What's going on, JP Football Fanatics fans? It's your boy JP here, JP Football Fanatics, back with you once again with my Week 6 recap for the 2023 NFL season. If that all sounds good, please be sure to drop a like on this video. If you not, be sure to also subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like all the content that I am providing here on this channel, or you would like me to improve is as far as what I may not cover on this channel just as of yet. Anything that you would like me to do for this channel to help improve and grow more subscribers, let me know in the comments down below. And hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell as well. Because when you guys hit that notification bell, you guys will be as far as when I go live and as far as when new content is posted, you guys can be able to share all that information for people that enjoy watching all of my football content stuff, and even just talking about football in general. So if you do all that stuff, like notification bell, you're also being a part of JP Football Fanatics to grow bigger and better than what it is already. So do all those things, help the channel out. Thank you everybody that's tuned in tonight. It really does mean a lot. Again, I'm always trying to improve. I'm always trying to get more like that. I know it's difficult. I know it's been very difficult for sometimes it can be very difficult for people to tune in at the times I try to be consistent, and sometimes it doesn't really always work out into my favor because of my schedule. My outside life gets very busy at times, so I try to post as much as I can to kind of keep the channel updated and ready to go and everything like that. And it can be hard sometimes. So, I really do appreciate all the patience, the love, and everything that you guys give to me about the channel. I really do love doing this a lot, and I want to be able to continue to grow doing this as the years go on because I just love doing this. I love having podcasts. I love talking about sports with other people, especially when it comes to football. You know, I love doing it all. So thank you to everybody that always tunes in each and every week for my Week 6 recap or general too with my picks as well, or just any time when I want to talk about some off-season stuff that goes on and everything. It always does mean a lot. The more people, the better that it is for everybody. All right, so we're gonna get into our recap for Week 6. Let me just say, what a crazy week of Week 6. A lot of low-scoring games, a lot of very close defensive kind of games, but there's been a lot of really good games that's went on this weekend. There was two in particular were big upsets, which we will get to talk about in this recap tonight, which were two of the biggest upsets probably in this season so far. And these teams that pulled off the upset are two teams that you don't really hear about very often, and they were the Browns and the Jets that pulled off some crazy upsets. So we'll get to the opportunity to be able to talk about that in just a little bit. But first, we'll talk about Thursday Night Football. So I'm going to pull up my screen, share my screen here, and then we'll get started. We'll talk about some of the other games, and then just kind of just talk about where teams are looking for right now as far as what they're looking right now. So the first game we'll talk about is Thursday City Chiefs, who are the home dogs against the Denver Broncos. So this game was won by the Chiefs, obviously. 19-8 was the final score. One of the worst games of the year, personally, for the Broncos. It was not a very good offensive performance at all for Russell Wilson. He didn't even throw 100 yards in this game. That's how bad it really was. And the Chiefs, on the other hand, obviously they didn't play their greatest either. This wasn't their greatest game of all time that they played on Thursday night. Obviously, when Patrick Mahomes does play against the Broncos, they do playing coverage. They do a really good job with not allowing like big, huge plays to happen. Whereas like if Mahomes were to play any other team, to destroy them the way that he does with those teams, it would be a completely different story. But the Broncos, for whatever reason, always have the Chiefs figured out, despite losing to the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes so many consecutive times. So they won this game. Patrick Mahomes had an over 300-yard game, one touchdown, one interception pass went to Kadarius Toney, who was a former Giant. Travis Kelce had 124 yards of receiving in this game, which he was the main target, obviously. So the Chiefs, they continue to win games. They're 5-1. They're looking like they're going to be a play. Obviously, anytime that you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you're definitely poised for a Super Bowl run, and they are contenders. But I do believe that actually can match up really well with the Chiefs and could potentially beat them, just like how the Lions did in Week 1. So in the AFC are kind of turning hot at the right time, and we'll talk about them a little bit. Like the Ravens are one team that could beat them. They usually have a good number on Patrick Mahomes, the Bills. So there are some teams that definitely can pull off some upsets and be able to beat the Chiefs playing. They're not really winning impressively, which is something that we kind of figured was going to happen. That they weren't going to continue like winning all these games all the time in dramatic fashion and everything like that, or just constantly kill teams left and right. So for them to win this kind of rivalry game, a 19-8, the way that they did, it's obviously it's great that they won that game, but at the same time, it also wasn't impressive by the Chiefs at all. They haven't really been that impressive this year in terms of how offensively they've been. I don't know really what the problem really is. Just they don't have, besides Travis Kelce, they don't really have that much to throw the ball to. So Kadarius Toney's kind of like that guy that's like a Deebo Samuel, like those kind of receivers where he's going to be given the ball to rush with a little bit. Could be utilized in all sorts of different offenses. They're kind of inconsistent. They're not, Isaiah Pacheco, who was the former Rutgers running back, he plays good at times. He can be good. I think he could be good for this team, but they don't utilize him enough, or he doesn't really get a lot of like big time plays to be able to draw the defense to run the ball, because they don't believe in running the ball all that often. So it's kind of hard to really say how they can be in that aspect. But, Isaiah Pacheco is just one of those guys. He can be good. I think he could be better with this team, but they just have to find ways to utilize him more within the passing game, which I think they are figuring out, which they do utilize for him when it comes to screen passes and everything. And it usually does help out a lot going if they want to be able to compete with some of these big time teams. And then the Broncos just need to start rebuilding themselves. They are obviously the worst team, one of, if not the worst team in the NFL right now. And I can't really say it's all Russell Wilson. I have to say, based off of the number the team has looked the past 6 weeks of the season, you can't really sit here and say that the offense has been the problem, which was because they couldn't score any points at all. And Russell Wilson, as far as like his stats go, they don't look good, but I don't think that bad this season. This was probably his worst game of the season against the Chiefs, but he hasn't really played all that bad this season. Not great, but he hasn't been all that bad. A lot of the problems is the defense has been the biggest struggle of all, but this is one of their better defensive games. Like Singleton had a pretty good game in this one. Patrick Surtain always is very good. Kareem Jackson, Zach Allen had a couple tackles in this game. So, their defense has talent. They just have not been playing very good football at all. So I think it's time to consider tanking the rest of the year and just continue to like work around the team that they have right now, or just improving it to be better, because they're not getting anywhere right now with the amount of draft picks they gave up to get Russell Wilson, and they're also just having problems with staying together as like a whole. You know what I'm saying? So they really need to get this team figured out. They need to start rebuilding. They need the future and start drafting for more players that they need, because what they have right now is just, it's not cutting it to be that team. All right, next game is the London game, and that's the Ravens and the Titans game. This game was played in London. But let me talk about the Ravens first, man. I mean, all over it since the pretty much the beginning of the season. They've been all over it all season long so far, the first 6 weeks, and this was definitely that statement game that shows to everybody that the Ravens are for real. Obviously, I haven't really been like the biggest believer Ravens have been in recent years. I don't not so much about Lamar Jackson, but as far as coaching goes, as far as offense goes, you can tell that there is a huge difference in how this offense plays this year versus what they played as last year when they had Greg Roman as their OC. There's definitely a significant difference between the two offensive coordinators in that helm. But Lamar Jackson, man, what a game that he played in this game. Yeah, he had a couple, you know, reception. Yeah, obviously that always stinks. But I think this was definitely a much better week for the Ravens than it was a week ago. The Steelers kind of got lucky with that game based off of their defense. If Lamar and the receivers, if all those receivers, every single ball that Lamar threw to them every single time, like when you watch that film, guys, he was phenomenal in that game. He was also phenomenal in this game too. If you watch that game against the Steelers, I highly advise you to go back and watch it because let me tell you something. Those receivers the ball, they would have easily won that game hands down. And they probably would have scored a couple of times if all those receivers would have caught. But all two. But he also had another really good game against the Titans. So the Titans defense is tough. The defensive line is very tough. It continues to show that the run D can stop the run fairly well. But this was one of the best games of Lamar Jackson so far this season. Zay Flowers looking like he is going to be like that legitimate wide receiver one that we all thought that he was going to be. I really do believe in Zay Flowers. I believe that he is going to be the future for this team, and he's going to help Lamar and develop him to be already. Like I think this guy is going to get so much better throughout the years that he's in the NFL. So, kudos to Mark Andrews, continues to show that he is a good catching tight end. Nelson Aguilar, still not really that much of existence, but they kind of helped out in key moments too. And then you got Lamar Jackson's running ability too. I mean, that's just a gimme right there. You know that Lamar is going to run the ball. You know he's going to be able to be effective in any which way, and that's exactly that he's been for this team, obviously. So it's been a good start for the Ravens this year. Much better start for them this year than it was a year ago. I believe the Raiders right now. I was watching the Bottom Line View earlier tonight, and they were saying about how the Ravens are contenders right now, or at least they can be contenders. Do I believe that they are contenders? I would say probably. I mean, I think right now they're one of the hotter teams. See, I think right now the Bills are kind of fluky. They kind of lose some, win some. The Bengals still have yet to kind of start getting hot around this time. The Browns are inconsistent. The Chiefs, while they're winning, they're still showing their offensive struggles. Now have a legitimate shot to compete for a Super Bowl by the way that they're playing right now. And obviously you have John Harbaugh, who's one of the greatest coaches of all time in the NFL. He's been a phenomenal coach since he's been in Baltimore. That's just hardcore facts right there. And he has a Super Bowl ring already with Joe Flacco. I believe that they are going to contend. I do believe right now that they are one of the more consistent, one of the more complete, better teams in the AFC North and in the AFC as a whole right now. I do believe that for sure. Despite with some injuries that they've had, in recent weeks, I still think they come in, they prepare, they get themselves ready to go. And Lamar is playing the best football of his career so far. Like every single year that we play, like you can tell that he has evolved over time. So, like for example, his first year was kind of fluky, not except for him, but he could get the job done here or there. Then you had, the next year he went 14 Into Lamar wasn't the most accurate passer, but he was electrifying when it came to running the football and being able to score on his feet and scrambling around outside of the pocket. So that was a bit of a fluky year. He got better the year after, and then he has just gotten better and better and better as a passer as the years go on. The stats may not always show it for certain years, but when you go to watch this film, guys, you can tell that there's a significant difference of how he first was as a passer, Louisville, versus what he is now. So I do genuinely believe that the Ravens will find a way to compete in the AFC, and I would not be surprised if they were to make the AFC Championship game and possibly winning it. Just by the way this, I just would not be surprised about it. When you take a look at that defense, obviously everybody, Smith has been doing such a phenomenal job. Patrick Queen, Kyle Hamilton at safety. This defense is very hot right now. I think they're one of the best defenses in the league. I think they're going to continue to show that they're going to grow stronger and stronger as the season goes on. So I genuinely believe that the Ravens are going to continue to get better as the season goes on. As long as everybody stays healthy, as long as Lamar can stay healthy, that's going to be the key thing about this Ravens team. If everybody can stay healthy, and that includes Lamar Jackson. The Titans, on the other hand, Ryan Tannehill got hurt in this game. Ryan Tannehill did not play well in this game. He has not played well at all this season. So I believe that this is a time where we're going to be sitting out. Probably not for the rest of the year, but for some time. He has an ankle injury. His playing status is in question right now. We don't know if he's going to be coming back next week to play. But Malik Willis came in there, took over the offense, and not that he looked all that much better than Ryan Tannehill, but I think at this point right now with the Titans, the way that they're playing, the way of how they can't really move the ball in terms of the ground game, I think allow Malik to go in there. Hold on. Excuse me, guys. Sorry. But I do believe this is the time now to allow Malik to come in here and take over as the QB1 for this team. Maybe not for the rest of the season, because Malik is also a player that is tempted to get hurt eventually. But I think allowing like other quarterbacks to take over the offense, kind of like put a spark in their offense, may seem like the best thing that happens. Like, not that I think Ryan Tannehill is terrible all season long. I think it's just time for like that spark. Like if they're wanting to win games, if they want to stay competitive, their offense to get a spark in them, I think the best way to really handle it is just allow Malik Willis to be the starting quarterback, which is looking like right now that he probably will start for next week. But I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But the Titans season is a lost cause at this point. I think this Titans season, I don't think they're going to really do anything productive offensively, so I figure why not? I think this is a good time for Malik Willis to get a lot of playing time in and see like the real deal for this team or not. Because don't forget, they also drafted Will Levis this past draft season, who is also extremely very raw too. Give Malik Willis the opportunity to see what he can do. If he's not able to provide anything, you also got a third string rookie quarterback of Will Levis waiting there as well, which kind of still baffles me. Don't know why they decided to go with Levis after going with Willis a year earlier, but that's the way that the franchise works. That's the way that the GM wanted it. So we'll see what happens, for this team, but I don't really have much hopes for this Titans team. I think it's time for them to kind of start rebuilding, trading some players away, and seeing what goes on moving forward. Okay, so it's the Panthers. So the Dolphins right now are one of the top teams in the AFC. I think they are the most explosive in this league right now. They're definitely, truly, they are the most explosive offense in this league right now. You take a look at all the wide receivers, the running back, they're all the fastest players on this team. This team is fast, they're physical, and Tua is playing out of his mind right now with all of these different speed weapons that he has. Like, this team is phenomenal offensively. Defensively, they've given up a couple touchdowns to Bryce Young and company to the Panthers, which it looked like it was kind of going to be like the Panthers. They were looking like they were in some pretty good control there in the first half, but then the Dolphins' offense exploded. They decided to come back and scored 42 unanswered points. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, who hasn't really been a huge part of the offense this year, not as much as he was last year, but even just considering like his speed and his ability to be able to, make some plays and be able to score that touchdown. Like the Dolphins are a legitimate team that, look like potentially compete for a Super Bowl, could potentially also win it too. They have to be at least one of the favorites to win a Super Bowl right now because of how fast their offense is, and there's not very many teams that I feel like can really slow them down. Like next week they go to play the Eagles. I don't even know the Eagles much because this speed kills so many different secondaries and they kill defensive coordinators. It's not even funny of how crazy this offense really is. The only kind of defense that was able to do it and were able to do it well was the New England Patriots when they played them, and the Buffalo Bills defense that was able to and only keep them to 20 points, which was impressive. So, the Dolphins are going to be able to go in there. They're going to beat bad teams. Like the Panthers are a bad team. They're going to go in there and beat the Broncos and destroy them the way that they did because they're also a very bad team. The Giants are a bad team, although they didn't play very well against the Giants. But this team is legitimately one of the hottest offenses right now, if not the hottest offense in the league right now. They truly are. And you can't all the talent that they have. They're going to be a rock star moving forward. But they will be facing some tougher teams as the schedule goes on. So maybe that'll be kind of putting their offense to the test to see like if they are legitimate, if they are that real contender that all Dolphins fans and everybody is saying that they can be. But I really do think they're looking like they're going to, as of right now, they look like they're going to win the AFC East. It looks like they're going to make the playoffs. Obviously, they are. There's no question that they are a legitimate playoff team, and they could compete for an AFC championship game. Could be just like with the Ravens. They're one of the hottest teams in the league right now. Just don't be surprised about how that kind of comes about together. On the other hand, are one of the worst, if not the worst team in the NFL right now, under Bryce Young at center. So I believe the Panthers, and not that Bryce Young played terrible in this game. I thought he, for the first half, I thought he played a pretty good first half. Got a couple touchdowns in there. He threw the touchdown Adam Thielen in the second quarter it was, and then he was able to go in there and play pretty well. Like I really thought that he played pretty well in this game. He threw that touchdown pass to Adam Thielen. He threw for over 200 yards passing. So I thought he had a really good game in this game. His defense giving up 42 points, which was expected, obviously. But Adam Thielen, if he did not have Adam Thielen, I have no idea because Thielen has been the main guy for him all season long, and it's just been absolutely incredible to see. An older veteran wide receiver who's been in the league for some time under Minnesota and then gets released by Minnesota and gets signed with Carolina. Like he's been a very good mentor veteran for Bryce Young, and hopefully he continues to play like this and continues to play really well and keep his composure despite not winning any game. Hope that does end up being the case, and maybe the Panthers will be something next year. And maybe Bryce Young, I'm not really ready to write him off yet. I don't think Bryce Young is bad. He has not had a very nice welcome to the NFL, obviously. Bad offense, not much to really work around with, which was already expected because they traded away DJ Moore in the offseason. So, taking his lumps as a rookie, and that was definitely expected from many rookies, but maybe not as bad as a number one overall. We'll see. I do think he's going to get himself better. I think he is going to improve. Maybe not this season, but next season, I think he will develop. He'll have a year under. They'll have some really good draft picks, so they'll be able to work around some things, and hopefully things will come together for them, and they'll play very well next year and get better. But right now it's looking like it's not. Right now they're obviously looking like they're going to be the worst team in the NFL this year. It's going to probably be a first game of the year. Um, but yeah, I think they'll eventually get there. I'm not overly concerned. I'm not ready to write off Bryce Young yet. Time to develop, but you never know. I mean, he could be a bust too if things don't work out and they don't pan out sooner. All right, but the next rookie who was drafted after Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, is the complete opposite. And let me just tell you guys, C.J. Stroud needs to win offensive rookie. How phenomenal has C.J. Stroud been? I've been so high on this guy. I think many people have been high on how he's been playing since he's arrived in the NFL. This guy is absolutely phenomenal. And he personally is already a generational quarterback in this newer look of the franchise for any quarterback in CJ Stroud. He's just been absolutely incredible. He threw his first pick of his NFL career against the Saints, which, by the way, I kind of did thought that was going to happen. I mean, the Saints defense is tough. They're one of the so I thought that was going to happen eventually, but the way that he went in and won this game and he kept his composure after throwing that interception on that same play, that the one that threw that the one that caught the interception and fumbled the ball right there as soon as he caught it, and it's like, and he was able to get right back up there, and he just did not disappoint at all. So his numbers don't look like, obviously they don't look that impressive because of that interception, but 2 touchdown passes, can't go wrong with that. Almost 200 yards of passing. I believe it was 199 in the air. That's incredible. And that's something that speaks a lot of volume about a future guy that's going to really be really something good for the future. CJ Stroud is a generational quarterback already as a rookie. Just watch his film, guys. Watch the games from the Texans, and you'll see what I mean. This guy is really respect. I really have been enjoying and love watching all the highlight reels of CJ Stroud and how he's developing already as a young rookie quarterback. And to carry the team as a rookie with, no offensive line and, barely any receivers to really work with, he's done it all, man. Like, he's really been doing it all. So the Saints, on the other hand, you take a look at the Saints, struggling right now. Obviously, offensively, they're struggling. Derek Carr, I love Derek Carr. Don't get me wrong. Always been defensive of him. Always loved him. Always really had a lot of respect for him. But I will tell you, and I will be the first to admit, he has not played very well since he's gone with the Saints. He has not played well. He hasn't even put any spark to this team in moving the football. He just has not really done that. Despite the numbers looking like they were impressive, over 350 yards, he still didn't play his absolute best in this game. And, like what some people would really been playing his conservative football. He's been very conservative this year, knowing the limitations of what he has. Obviously, a line, the offensive line is not very good. You have some good receivers, but haven't been that productive because you haven't been given a lot of time with the offensive line. The ground game is not as good as it used to. Kamara is getting older, and he might be washed at this point in his career, despite, having some decent enough rushing yards. I still think he's kind of washed at this point in his career. But Derek Carr is one of the sole reasons why the Raiders couldn't hold on to him for much longer. Yeah, not only was it because he couldn't play under Josh McDaniels' offensive playbook, but also too at the same time it was more of the effect of where he couldn't win a lot of big games. And this was one of the biggest stages where he could have won this game here, but he has not been able to pull off like that big win or that statement win that he's been looking for his entire career. So this was not a very good game, despite the numbers looking like they were impressive and throwing the ball 50 times. It wasn't one of his most impressive games, and I feel that the Saints are kind of looking Looking at a guy that's mid, and I love Derek Carr, but he's looking like he's mid. Last year was kind of like that year, was that 1 year of excuse where, you know, you go to head coach, you have a new offense once again, and you don't really play all that well, but you still defend him. He still hasn't really played a season two, and I think a lot of that also has to do with coaching too. Obviously, I really do. So I don't know what the Saints are going to look like going. They're looking like they're an up and down team. They may win the division, or they may not, depending on how everything pans out. But don't be expecting came out on top in this division or any other team besides the Saints if this doesn't happen, because the Saints have been, an up and down kind of team. Also, if they win some of these games, it's not going to be because of their offense. It's going to be because of how well their defense has played, even with them aging. What's going on, Keith? Good to see you, man. Thanks for typing in on the live chat. Means a lot, man. Okay, next we got to talk about this game. Got to talk about it a little bit, right? Falcons and the Commanders. Yes, I really do mean this when I say this. It is time to start Taylor Heineke over Desmond Ridder. Like, it's that time now. We've given Desmond Ridder some chances to see what he can showcase. He hasn't been successful with it yet. Why not let the backup of Taylor Heineke, go in there and play? I believe Taylor Heineke is better than Desmond Ridder. I really do believe that. And Desmond Ridder did through 3 picks in this game. It was just not a very pretty game for Desmond Ridder. So I think it is time to allow Heineke to be in that driver's seat and see what he can do for this team moving forward. You have to really think about the player itself. You got to think about, like, you have a legitimate shot of going to the position, and if your quarterback is not taking you there, your first string right now, you got to try to get a spark in there and allow your second string quarterback to be able to get that in you. So this was not a very good game for Desmond Ridder, not a good game for the Falcons, and really more importantly, not a very good game for Bijan Robinson either, who really wasn't that involved in this game at all. 13 carries for only 37 yards as a first-round running back. Do that. The Commanders' defense couldn't stop the Bears and their rushing attack, despite them not really running the ball all that much, but they couldn't stop pass at all. And for them to slow down Bijan Robinson and only allow them to have only to have 37 rushing yards, that is pretty sad. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty sad right there. If you are allowing this guy, first rounder, you're only allowing 37 yards, of rushing, but then you're giving up all sorts of different yardage. That's crazy. That's crazy to me to think about. So, but they were also playing Desmond Ridder as well, who's not a very good quarterback. But Drake London, Kyle Pitts is slowly getting more involved, which is good. It's important that you get Kyle Pitts involved because he is a generational player. And if he has the right quarterback play that's going to design for him to be able to catch more of these balls, I think he's going to be one of the top tight ends eventually if you allow him to do that. He was drafted for a reason into this league, and he was drafted so high for that reason is because of his capability of any passing formations. So you have to allow Kyle Pitts to really be able to get involved into the offense. You have to. The Falcons, not a very good day for them, but the Commanders on the other side was a good passing game for them. They still can't really run the ball very well. They've been struggling to run the ball all season long, but Sam Howell has been pretty good for them this year. I'm not gonna lie, he's been pretty good for them. He had a game and 3 touchdowns. I thought he's played pretty well this season. He's involved all sorts of different wide receivers to be a part of the team. Scary Terry McLaurin, he's getting better. Curtis Samuel has been getting involved the last couple of weeks at least. I think the Commanders a decent team. They just need to get their coaching act under control, and if they can do that, it wouldn't be so bad. Just so that's that game for that one. Didn't get to watch too much of that game or analyze it as much, but just kind of taking a look at the stats and everything kind of just shows you everything that you need to know. All right, Duval County continues. I believe they're going to continue to go in there and beat Jacksonville. To beat Indianapolis at home in Jacksonville. This game was ugly. From the start. Gardner Minshew, who's going to be the starter, most likely going to be the starter for the rest of the season for the Indianapolis Colts. This was not one of his best games at all this season. And for him to go in there, throw 3 interceptions, only a touchdown, and then you get 329 yards. Got a lot of yards of passing, but this game was ugly for the Colts since the very beginning. The Colts, that good team, they were looking like they were going to kind of start getting some things together and figure some things out, which I do believe they're going to, and they're also in a very winnable division. So, I definitely am not counting them out yet. And, as far as Gardner Minshew goes as their starting quarterback, who's going to be likely the year, if you haven't heard already, Anthony Richardson is very likely going to be out for the rest of the year with a shoulder injury. Saw on there that he was going to undergo shoulder surgery. Excuse me, I can't speak tonight. Shoulder surgery. He was going to go under that, and he was probably going to miss out the rest of the season, which I personally think is the smartest move. This was already the 3rd time that he's gotten hurt. So I do like Anthony Richardson a lot. I was also very high on him along with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud when they came out. I was also very high on him, day 1 starter, and he ended up being that day 1 starter, and he's been pretty good since he's played with Indianapolis. He's been the starting quarterback for this league, but his biggest question, so really more about his health. So that's why I'm kind of saying it's better the rest of the year, and just allow him to sit and kind of learn from what Gardner Minshew has done, and then allow yourself to get healthy, work in the offseason franchise to continue to build around him with good receivers like Josh Downs. I think he's a phenomenal good pick for this team. Alec Pierce is also very good. Michael Pittman can be like that jump ball guy that's a good contested jump ball wide receiver that can make some really big plays for you. Zach Moss, no one ever thought that he would have had as great of a year as he's had for this team. Has been playing pretty well. And then Jonathan Taylor into this team, they could be a decent team. And I think they will continue to get better as long as all these things kind of come together in their favor and allow, obviously Gardner Minshew, who's a phenomenal mentor for, he was a good mentor for Jalen Hurts. He was also, pretty good. He had some pretty good numbers when he played in Jacksonville too. So the guy knows how to win some games in the NFL. And I do believe that there are going to be days where the Colts are going to end up winning some of these games and upsetting some of these teams somehow. That's just the Colts way of how it always ends up being in that way. And with Shane Steichen knowing Gardner Minshew already is going to really help them out in their offense and really work around everything else as well already, which is going to be phenomenal. That's the Colts in a nutshell for you. I think they're going to end up getting better as the season goes on. Maybe they may not win as many games, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but they'll still be competitive. I think their offense is good enough to compete with some I really do believe so. I mean, they beat the Ravens, for example. That was a big upset win that nobody really saw that one kind of coming. Everybody thought, excuse me, I don't know why I keep confusing the Raiders with the Ravens. I don't know why. But every team that they played in, they've been in every single game so far this season. There hasn't been a game where they've been completely out of it, even with the games that they have lost to, like the Jags, the Colts, excuse me, the Texans, they won that game, or the Rams, you know what I mean? Those kind of games, they've been good football lately. They've been playing some pretty good football, and you take a look at the rest of their schedule right now with what they're playing. Like there are some winnable games. Like the Saints is a winnable game right there. The Browns could be a winnable one for them. The Panthers, the Patriots, um, the Titans again. They'll play the Falcons, the Raiders, the Texans. They'll play again. Like there are some really legitimate like evenly matched deadlock teams that they can really play. They can really end up playing with and keeping those kind of games interesting. But as long as quarterback plays consistent and Sunday, as long as everybody else can stay healthy, they can win some of those games, and they could be talked about for a wild card spot too, because there's some other teams that right now that are not looking like they are a playoff team. They're just not. The Jags won this game. This is a home game against the Colts at home. The Jags have killed it. They definitely won this off of ground at Travis Etienne, who's been awesome this year, been one of the best backs in the league this year at least. The Jags, they continue to win. They win some games, they lose some games, and they learn from them, and that's important. And that's important it's important as a franchise guy like Trevor Lawrence is. They're going to get themselves better. They'll get themselves more accommodated. They'll cool themselves off a little bit to win some of these games as long as they just kind of continue to stay healthy, as long as they can not make any mistakes, because that was kind of the thing last year. He continues to make mistakes. Despite winning 4 of these games so far, he continues to kind of really go in there and he makes some of these mistakes. So as long as Tane and the offensive line can really, really, make some big time plays and some good decisions, it will get better. But this year, I've just noticed a couple of times with more of like the effect of where like the offense hasn't been as explosive or as like undergoing as other teams have in years past. Like they just haven't really shown me, besides beating the Bills, they haven't really shown me that team that people can trust and that they can win some of these tight contested games. So, if they won this game, they're a good home team, but I kind of want to see what they do on Thursday night against the Saints and see if they can actually win that game and win it in convincing fashion, because the Saints are not a great team right now, and Jacksonville is supposed to be that better team on paper and in rankings. So, as long as they can prove that they're a winning team, they could be better than what I'm giving them credit for. They really could be. All right, next we'll talk about the Bengals and the Seahawks. Didn't watch a single snap of this game, but so I'll kind of make it quick. It wasn't a very good day for the Seahawks. This game, and it was not a very pretty day for Geno Smith, with having 323 yards and 2 picks, throwing the ball 41 times, allowing Kenneth Walker to rush in for a touchdown. It was a rough game for them offensively, but then you take a look at stats on a great defensive game for both the Bengals and the Seahawks. Like, you take a look at these stats right here, like Quandre Diggs, man, what a game in this game. Jordan Brooks also had a lot of really good plays and did a really nice job here. Devin Witherspoon, who's been awesome this year. Jamal Adams, Jordan Brooks, Bobby Wagner, who's been, kind of a part of this defense as well. They've been playing awesome this year defensively. It's just, not clicking it like they were last year. That's really what it is. Their offense is just not really as productive pass. Then you take a look at the Bengals, and the Bengals are, they're slowly building themselves back up. They're getting themselves back on track with Joe Burrow having 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Joe Mixon looks older. He's not really as good as he used to be. So this opportunity for after this season, possibly for a Joe Mixon trade. Jamar Chase continues to show that he is the best receiver. Tyler Boyd, not as good as he used to be, but he's still pretty darn good, and he was able to step up as like that guy, as like the number 2 guy, fulfilling in for T. Higgins as he's kind of still recovering from that rib injury that he had a week ago. T. Higgins only had 2 catches for 20 yards. So the Bengals are slowly getting back up there. But it's going to be a little bit until they really get themselves. Like, if they can win, like, the next few games, if they can win some more of their divisional games, then we can safely say that they're getting themselves back. But until then, still kind of a bit in question in terms of how they're going to be. Next is the Vikings and the Bears game. Not much to really say about it. Justin Fields left the game. He has a thumb injury right now. Doubtful to be playing for next week. See how that goes. The Vikings offense played exactly the way I thought it was going to be. Very sluggish, very slow, not much going on. That was exactly the way that it was. And not just because they were playing in Chicago, but it was also because there was no Justin Jefferson. And when you don't have Jefferson in your lineup, deep threat down the field, or that short intermediate pass, or anything that you need him to do, you're hurting yourself on offense. And that's exactly what Kirk Cousins has done. He hurt himself this year in terms of that game. So, obviously the Vikings won this game to win against the Bears. Justin Fields, he's not going to be in next week, at least he's doubtful for next week. The Bears will probably just continue to tank, all that sort of thing. And we'll see if next week, if the Vikings, I believe they play San Francisco. They play the 49ers next week. That will be an interesting game to kind of see how they, if they're going to continue the winning ways or if they're going to struggle against that team, because their defense and their defensive line is right now the best in football. And speaking of the 49ers, man, what a game, man. The Browns came out on top. And just even think about this for a second, okay? The Browns winning this game with not Deshaun Watson, not Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but with their third string guy in PJ Walker. The guy at XFL. The guy who was an undrafted quarterback from the XFL goes in and beats the best team in the NFL in the San Francisco 49ers. Say that PJ Walker played good in this game. There were actually some moments where PJ Walker played pretty good. Like, I know that despite the 2 interceptions he threw in this game, which was expected that he was going to turn the ball over and not personally, but the way that he played in this particular game and some of the throws that he was making was pretty impressive. Huge touchdown pass to Amari Cooper that put them in the red zone. That was like incredible of a pass. That was almost as similar as what was last year when he played for the Panthers and he threw that 62-yarder to DJ Walker and he caught it in the end zone. It was like one of the last nation, and that tied the game up. It was pretty impressive to really see. So, yeah, I would say pretty good game. Personally, he played better than Brock Purdy did. This was not a Brock Purdy day. He was pressured all game long. Miles is an absolute animal in this game, was getting all over Brock Purdy in this offense. Deebo Samuel also went out in this game. Christian McCaffrey is also suffering with an injury now. His oblique is bothering him, so he's questionable to be playing for next week. Like, yeah, man. I mean, one of the, if not the biggest win in franchise history for the Browns. I mean, good for them to win in that dramatic fashion that they them up to 3-2. Now, what can I say about the 49ers? What does the 49ers learn? What have we learned about the 49ers in this game? Well, this was just an off day, obviously. Brock Purdy didn't play his best. It was not a good game for him. None of the wide receivers played all that. Brandon Ayuk, because he was the only one that was kind of the most relied on after Deebo went out. George Kittle wasn't really much involved after, at least. So, there's a lot of things we learned about them. I still think that the 49ers are the best team in the league. I think they're the most complete team. This game, they're still the best team in the league. They're the most complete. They're the most composed. They are the most kind of team that's going to beat you in any way. If they're going to beat you on offense, they're going to beat you in the passing game. If they can't beat you in the passing game, they're going to beat you in the run game. If they have offense, they're going to win on their defense. And if they're not going to win on defense, they're going to win by field goal. So there are so many different ways of how the 49ers win. This one, however, just ended up being one of them. And this was one of the biggest upsets of the season so far. The other one we'll talk about a little big upset win for the Browns and definitely in their franchise history. So, and they did this without Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb. That's impressive. That's really impressive right there. And I'm sure that Moody, who is the kicker for the 49ers, I'm sure he did not miss in those 2 field goals. If he would have made those 2 field goals, the Niners would have won this game, and they would have just barely held on. But the fact of the matter is the better team overall on the day did. So, and you got to talk about that Browns defense, man. The best team from the Browns all season long. Yeah, they played a lot of good games in terms of defense against the Bengals, against the Titans, but this was their best defense, and it came down to playing that best team in the NFL, which is awesome. That is awesome to see. So that is my number one upset right there. That was a great game. Great game right there. All right, and this game right here, this is about the Patriots and the Raiders. Let me take a sip of my water, and then I'll talk about this game real quick, okay? So I also got the chance to watch this game as well on NFL Red Zone. And yeah, this game was definitely was not exciting at all for one, which I didn't think was going to be exciting. I thought the Raiders were going to go in there and win this game, and I kind of thought they were going to win it pretty close too. So this game ended up basically on a safety. Okay, got a sack, and Max Crosby he has to be one of the defensive. He has to be in the nomination for defensive player of the year. He's just this year, and he's really the real reason why the Raiders the past couple of weeks on defense has been playing superb. That's just so he got this sack on Mac Jones, and this game basically ended on a safety. They won. They were winning this game. It was no, they were. I mean, the Raiders were in pretty much control under Jimmy G as center. Jimmy G was one of his better games, not great, but one of his better games. He did have to leave the game early because of a back injury. What a surprise right there. He left the game and was taken to the hospital because of a back injury earlier today based off of articles that I read about and things that I saw on the internet. It looks like Jimmy G is going to be okay. So he'll probably get the start back up next week against whoever they're playing next week, but he's not really ruled out yet for next week's game unless things do happen. They play the Bears next week, and this would be a good opportunity for Jimmy G to kind of get back in there and play, but also too it could be also the opportunity for either Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell, who I think should be the next guy up really over Brian Hoyer at this point of the season, and allow him to play. So Jimmy G didn't have the greatest. He won this game pretty much for them, and then Brian Hoyer came in and was able to muster through and seal the deal for some field goals. Their offense still kind of concerns me because they still can't score points to save the life of them. Josh Jacobs has not been very last season. So I concern about the run game for them. I also concern about in terms of like their pass game hasn't been, but I think the different style of this offense is it's totally different than what we saw last year under Derek Carr, because Derek Carr was able to throws and make the big time throws down the field, whereas Jimmy G is not that kind of guy that's going to throw the ball down the field. He's more of a short intermediate pass, which is why they brought in Jacoby Myers for that reason, who's been good this year for the Raiders as their number two. So, their struggles on offense, they haven't been absolutely awful. They weren't absolutely awful in this game, but I feel like they could have scored a lot more points if I felt that they had a different quarterback in there that was going to make the throws down the field. And the Patriots on the other side, like Mac Jones, another him, and not that he played all that bad. I mean, you take a look at that throw. Like if you take a look at that throw that he threw to Devontae Parker in the fourth quarter towards the end of the game, if Devontae Parker could have caught that ball right there, you know that the Patriots would have won that game. Hands down, would have definitely won that game. Which that was a crazy play right there, and that one was just covered by Marcus Epps. That was crazy to see. And Mac Jones took that sack and the safety on there, and that ultimately lost them the game. So, yeah, the Patriots, I believe it's time for them to clean house. I think they're pretty much done at this point. Nothing really left to really play for. So this was a tough, real tough game to watch. The Patriots are done. I really do believe that they're done, and there's not much more left to really say about how this team has been, because they just very good offensively all year. They have no run. They have no run game. The offensive line can't block. The passing game is not working. The wide receivers can't catch, or quote unquote wide receivers. Like, who is a legitimate wide receiver for this team? Yeah, they're season long on offense. All right, let's talk about the Lions, man. I know last week I apologize. I don't know why I missed out on talking about my picks when I was doing my week six picks last week. I don't get how I missed this game, but Lions fans, Bucks fans, I apologize. But man, alive, this defense for the Detroit Lions. Can we talk about how good they are? Phenomenal. If you did not have Aiden Hutchinson as that edge rusher for this team, you know how many points they would have given up? Like they would have. Like, I don't think Baker Mayfield had a terrible game in this game, but if he wasn't pressured that many times, then I truly do believe that the Bucks could have kept this game close and probably could have won the game. But yeah, this was a crazy game for the Lions on defense. Like, their defense was filled with everything that they played. It was just phenomenal to see everything that they were able to do. Aiden Hutchinson is just that guy. Alexander is just absolutely incredible. Kirby Joseph had some big plays in there too. Tracy Walker, Will Harris, who got an interception in there too, who's, okay, he's gotten in there here and there. But man, this defense for Detroit, man, they were all over all game long against the Tampa Bay Bucks. It was just crazy to see. The Bucks couldn't even score a touchdown. They weren't even scored to muster through a touchdown with any of Chris Godwin or Mike Evans. They just weren't. And they continue to show that their run game is non-existent. The run game is just not there. But yeah, this was a great defensive game. Like, I don't think there's enough people that talk about how good the Lions defense has been this year, and probably has been the best that we've seen this defense in all of franchise. Excuse me, in all of franchise history. Like, they've been playing awesome this year on defense. It's incredible to watch how good the Lions have been on defense. That's just really all I got to say. Now, are the Lions going to be able to compete? Are they going to beat the 49ers and the Cowboys when they have to face some of these teams down the road? I mean, I think their offense is going to compete. I think they're going to keep themselves in the game. But, man, it's really just going to depend on if their defense can stay healthy. as long as their defense can stay healthy, I think they can win some of those games, like the Cowboys or other games out there like the Cowboys or the Niners or things like that when it comes to like playoff season. Like obviously they're going to win the NFC North. Excuse me, the NFC North. They're definitely going to win at it. But as far as like beating some of those teams, they could. They very well could, as long as their defense can stay, as long as they can play like tough core, getting the pressure to the quarterback kind of defense and that formation right there. They can, beat some of these teams or upset at least one of them. But they've been good this year, man. The Lions defense has just been great. I think it's the best defense. All right, and then the Rams run game dominates against the Cardinals. The Cardinals, throughout the first four, have been very fun to watch. Not a great, they haven't been a great team, but they've been a lot of fun to watch. They're exciting. They off every single week. Just not this week against the Rams. The Rams and Matthew Stafford got all over them and won this game pretty handedly. And based off of the ground game from Kyrene Williams, who's been a very good running back for them all season long. He's been doing phenomenal this year with them. I think he's a lot better than what they've had in previous years under Cam Akers, under Darrell Henderson. Like, he's been really good. Cooper Kupp also had a really big game again. Puka Nacua, not as involved now with Cooper Kupp back, but Kupp ever gets out again, obviously Puka is going to be in there and will make some big time plays, as well as Tutu Atwell and that sort of thing into the system. Now that he's back, I think the team looks even better, and they look a lot more composed. And Matthew Stafford looks like a much better quarterback now with Cooper Kupp back in. It really does. And then the Cardinals, obviously they have some things to work on. They're dealing with some injuries and things of that nature, but they're still going to fight. They're still going to play some games. They're still going to go away, but it's not the same. It's not going to be the same Cardinals team as we saw earlier in the season. I think their true identity is going to continue to show as the season goes on and when they play bigger and tougher teams than them. What do you think? We got about 3 more games left. Okay. Set number 2 is the Jets defense that won against an elite offense. Watch out for this defense, guys. The Jets defense, I've been saying it all season long. If obviously Aaron Rodgers going down was a huge loss for the Jets on offense, a huge loss. Going in, everybody had their doubts. Everybody has had their questions about him in terms of how he was going to play in this game and any other game this year. The Jets defense, this is now the second elite quarterback that they've faced this year, and they've absolutely beat them. First week 1, they beat the Bills. Last week, they beat the Broncos and Russell Wilson. And this week, now, they just defeated Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. And not only did they beat the Eagles, this was also their very first win in franchise history against the Eagles. That's impressive right there, guys. Defense is all over it, man. When they play tough teams, they were all over it when they played against Patrick Mahomes. They were all over it against Josh Allen. And Hurts, like, as long as Zach Wilson is mistake-free and they continue to conserve the amount of time the offense is out there and conserve Zach Wilson and contain him to not make like those boneheaded decisions, this team can win on defense. They absolutely can win on defense as long as they can do that portion of not allowing Zach Wilson to make critical, crucial mistakes. They can win these type of games on defense easily. And that's exactly what they did, man. Jalen Hurts threw 3 interceptions in this game. 3 interceptions against the Jets? That's crazy. A team that had so much high expectations all offseason. Aaron Rodgers getting traded from Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers that. Aaron Rodgers now hurt in week 1 after his 4th snap. They've gone through a lot of adversity since the beginning of the season. And they didn't even have like their best defensive players. They didn't have Sauce Gardner. They didn't have DJ. And they still won this game because their corners and their defensive line was all over Jalen Hurts, especially the second half. It was a little concerning watching the game in the first half when they gave up a couple of touchdowns there. Man, they came together and they formatted something totally different than what we saw in the first half. Game was an incredible win for the Jets defense. I got to say, really, this was more about the Jets defense winning it than it was Zach Wilson beating Jalen Hurts. The defense did the work here. Not going to criticize Zach. He's been playing a lot better. He really has been playing a lot better, and he's been playing a lot more with confidence and composure. I think Aaron Rodgers coming into the helm here was the best thing that's ever happened for Zach Wilson. He's a completely different person now under Aaron Rodgers, now that he's, his backup, so to speak. And, when you watch like Aaron Rodgers your whole life, and then you have him as your mentor, and you're having him allow you to teach you about the game of football, and kind of calm you down in some ways, although Aaron Rodgers is not the most humble person in the world, something definitely clicked for him this year. I think them getting Aaron Rodgers was a huge, flip of a switch for him, because I think that made him realize that, oh boy, this is a veteran quarterback. I better listen to what he has to say. I better grow up because he's going to straighten me out easily. Factors about that, about how Zach Wilson has changed, how his demeanor is this year, how he's been playing the game of football, how his confidence has been building up, how he's been conservative and not making huge mistakes at crucial times. So as long as the things that he's being asked to do and can just conserve the football and allow the run game to happen, allow protection, and allow him to, not make those critical mistakes, the Jets could make that run as the 85 Bears. They could, because they can win on defense. They've already beaten 2 elite teams, the Bills and the Eagles. And if they continue to win this way, there could be a lot of other teams that they could beat on defense. So that just proves that, yes, it's a passing league nowadays, but you can still win on defense as long as you have the right guys to do it. And the Jets absolutely smashed the 2022 draft because they have all the best defensive players in that draft class. They absolutely smashed it. And it's only going to get bigger, and it's only going to get better from here. I love the way their defense is, man. They're hardcore. They're physical. They're always ready to play every game. They're always ready to go. This game, this was their first loss of the season. Boo-hoo. I know it's sad. Loss to the Jets. But you got to get your stock up, and you got to go back out there and play some more football. You got to play the Dolphins next week. The best offense in the league. How are you going to respond to that? A lot of questions, a lot of concerns, a lot of things to think about throughout the week. My biggest question here, the worst primetime game of the year, the Giants and the Bills. Do I believe this is one of the worst, if not the worst, primetime game of the year? Yeah, I'm going to say it really was. I was really bored watching this game on Sunday night. This was really the only game that I watched from this game was absolutely dreadful to watch. I could not even stand to watch this game from start to finish. It was just dreadful. Daniel Jones did not play in this game for the Giants, so Tyrod Taylor took over. He was the starter for this game, and I will say Tyrod did not have a, but you can tell why he's not a starter over Daniel Jones is because if you thought Daniel Jones holds on to the ball too long, he holds on to the ball so much more longer than Danny Dimes. So much longer. And watching him play was just making me feel sick to my stomach. Because a guy that has so much physical tools, so much physical talent for himself and his body, the guy is super conservative. The guy doesn't make a lot of big time plays. Although with a strong arm, he has an incredibly strong arm. A stronger arm than Daniel Jones does. In my personal opinion, a stronger arm than Daniel Jones. To you, why he's not a starter in this league. And that's simply because he holds on to the ball for so long that he has to give up sacks. He has to give up yardage just to avoid like any turnovers. Conservative quarterback, very conservative in terms of holding onto the ball for so long of a period of time. And he made a couple of good throws. Actually, released a football, and when he actually threw the football, there were at times where they were some pretty nice passes. Maybe not all, but the ones that were caught were incredible. They were some really good throws. And then other times, you know, it was just right there, just nobody else was able to catch it. Now, the biggest question and the worst coaching decision of the year was before you are up 6-0. You have no timeouts left. It's 14 seconds left in the second. You're about to go into halftime. You decide to give the ball to instead of trying to pass the ball. Like, I understand like the logic of giving it to Saquon because you're right there inside. You know, if like you understand, like, yeah, you gotta make a play here. You can run the ball in, and you're gonna get in with your best running back. But number one, your best running back was out for 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks at least, and you also got to understand you have no timeouts left. So if you're running the ball and you don't get in, what's gonna happen? You're not gonna have enough time to get up because the defense is gonna hold on to your player, your teammate around for as long as he can to drain out the rest of that clock, so that way you don't get that extra play in time. Like, that's just simple common sense. You don't run the ball in that situation. You have to pass the ball. So, with that being said, really, guys, they lost that game because horrible, horrible mismanagement of the clock. It was absolutely terrible. And quarter, the same thing happens again. Okay? You're down 14-9. If you would have made that field goal, it would have been a much better situation. You could have kicked the field goal right there. You would have won on a field goal. And that would have been a very well deserving because they outplayed the Bills. I truly believe they outplayed the Bills. But at the end of the day, Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, top 5 guy, ends up making big time plays, and he was able to muster through two touchdowns in the fourth quarter after not scoring anything in the first 45 minutes of the game. Go figure on that one. So, yeah, this was not a very good primetime game. Neither team played very well, but I felt the Giants should have won this game. I truly would have won this game if they didn't mismanage that clock. And in this play right here, they should have gotten an extra play right here because this pass interference right here by the defense that was holding on to Darren Waller. And this was the last play of the game, 1 yard line, I believe. Or this could have been the play before then. So the first call was right. It was definitely a pass out on the defense. It was definitely the right call right there. Pass interference got to move them to the 1 yard line, first down. Get another play in. Same thing happened again, but the refs didn't call it. There was definitely holding on there. Should have gotten an extra play. But again, the Giants, once again, messed everything up, mismanaged the clock. That's why. So they could have easily won this game. I thought they outplayed the Bills. But at the end of the day, when you take a look at it, they deservedly lost this game because they decided not to go for the easy points at the end of the first half. So I can't really give any sympathy to the Giants. As much as I am of a Giants fan, it's hard to watch this team knowing that they've been so much better this year and watching them fail in front of my very own eyes is, to me, at this point, nothing matter. Because it's an absolute joke of how they played this season. Coaching has not been the greatest. Players have not been the greatest. Quarterback play has not been very good. So many different things. And then Monday Night Football, Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. This was their best 23. I really thought Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, I thought they played their best game this season against the Chargers. And Brandon Staley needs to be fired. Need to say that. Need to throw that out there again. Cowboys played a really good game in this game. Not going to lie. I thought they played in this game based off of the plays that I was able to watch. Dak looked like the old Dak Prescott. He understood that he still can run. He gets plays on his feet. He played a really good football game. He really did. And CeeDee Lamb was definitely a big help in that. Tony Pollard, on the other hand, again, just kind of like how I talked about it before with him. You know, with Tony Pollard, there was a lot of concern about him in terms of playing football really as a back starter because of all that time when he split all that time with Zeke Elliott and, you know, watching him play the way that he's played. And, you know, you can tell that they're missing Zeke as that goal line stand big time. They definitely are. But, yeah, CD had a phenomenal was 7 receptions for 117 yards, no touchdowns. But another good news if you're a Cowboys fan, I'm not, but a Cowboys fan is that Brandon Cooks was able to get his first Cowboy touchdown this season last night. So that was also pretty nice to see right there. Just for the Cowboys, at times played good, but at times also played very flat. Yeah, they're struggling in terms of like you know, their capability of being able to stop like the run. So that's kind of a big question mark right there. Although Austin Eckler didn't really exactly play great in this game, coming off of his injury. But you know, Justin Herbert, as long as you have Justin Herbert on that side as quarterback, can take. You know, Keenan Allen had a pretty good game in this game. I thought at least. Joshua Palmer, I think he can step up as that number 2 guy. But I thought the Cowboys did a phenomenal job of covering him and focusing a lot of like their focus on him and not allowing Joshua Palmer to make like those big plays. So I thought the Cowboys defense played pretty good in that game. They played a lot of coverage. And the Chargers defense was playing good at times too. Up obviously, like always, they gave up in like key moments. They gave up some big time plays in key moments too, which is, you know, that's just the brands the game of football and the brand of coaching that he does. So I don't quite understand it. I think you need to fire Brandon Staley. You got to go play the Chiefs next week, the Chargers. The Chargers got to play the Chiefs next week in Arrowhead. You know, that's always a great game every year. Phenomenal game every single year. Do I think they're going to win it? I think they have every opportunity to be able to win. I think any game that they go into, guys, because you take a look at the offense, as long as you have Justin Herbert under center and he's healthy, as long as you have Keenan Allen, as long as you have Austin Eckler, you're going to win. You can do very well on offense. You just can't win your games on defense. You can't allow your defense to win some of these games, which I just don't understand why on defense they are very good on paper. Their defense is very good on paper. just for whatever reason, they just can't. For whatever reason, they just can't play football, and that's because of coaching. It goes down to Brandon Staley. It's all on him. He is just not a very good defensive coach, let alone a head coach. So he needs to be fired. He needs to be taken under the accountability, like, immediately, because he's just not been good at all this year. And for him to win like 2 straight games, the way that he's had, he's even lucky that he still has a job. Like, he really, truly is. So, the Cowboys. Now, let's get back to the Cowboys. Do I think the Cowboys are still a good team? Are they still one of the best teams in the NFC, despite losing to the 49ers the way that they did, despite losing to the Cardinals the way that they did? Yeah, I mean, I think the Cowboys are still a phenomenal team. I think they're a great defensive team. Like, I do believe the Cowboys are poised for it. The question really is, it just comes down to really, like, obviously coaching is a big one here, because coaching can also be a big factor, and can allow mistakes to happen, some mental errors. But I still think they're a very talented team. I still think they have a lot of talent that I don't think enough people really talk about. But it's more of the fact of that, whether or not if they're going to be able to get there, whether or not they're going to like make like that big statement win. Like, they've had opportunities to be able to do so. This was probably one of their more stabilized wins, and probably one of their more statement wins here. They have to go in and play like other teams later on in the season. Like, the 49ers was an opportunity for them to make that big statement, and they blew it. Or there's games like the Eagles, they got to play the Eagles twice. Like, that's a big one right there too. And then the Bills later on in the year, and the Dolphins, the Lions, like, they got that team, and they want to be the team that we know they can be. They have to win these big time games like the Eagles and the Bills, the Lions, like, and the Rams even too, because the Rams are a tough team this year too. This year, they have to be able to play like in those biggest stages there if they want to even be considered a playoff team and a dual threat for the Super Bowl, like a threat to the Super Bowl and possibly winning it again. Like, they got to make sure that they're ready for all those statement games, so that way they can say, like, maybe like more people can think about it and say, hey, maybe they could be that team. They could be the next great team that could win a Super Bowl after 30 years. With all that being said, everybody, that is going to conclude to my Week 6 recap for this week. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Drop not done so already. And then be sure to also hit that subscribe button as well for more NFL content. So, guys, this is your boy JP Football Fanatic saying thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all next time. Peace.